G'day everyone and welcome to another episode of Eco Convos with Dan. Look, I'm really excited to bring you this one. This time we actually talked a little bit more on health. And so our guest today is Chris from Diagnostic Health Solutions and Cyril from Health Express World. And we started talking about things with regards to natural light and the importance of that. But we're also talking about electromagnetic frequencies. It's quite an in-depth conversation. You might need to sit down and pay attention to this one, but I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of it. I know I did. So there's some pretty good information coming up here, and it's one of those things that starts to open your eyes a little bit, and it makes you think about things you may not have necessarily thought about before. Anyway, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Look forward to talking soon. Cheers.
Hey everyone, welcome to Eco Convos with Dan. I'm your host Dan Vanderhoek, and we are here chatting everything off-grid living, self-sustainability and regeneration. Today we've got our guests here. We've got Chris Henderson and Cyril Burke. They're from BioLight, Health Express World and EMF Safety. Guys, thank you so much for coming along.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
So tell us a little bit about what we're starting. I think we might start with you, Chris. What are we, with BioLight? Can you give us a little bit of a background as to what BioLight is and what you do?
Well, in relation to BioLight, that's a company I started probably a year ago.
Yep.
And tried to fulfill the aim of educating the public about light and health generally.
Yep.
In terms of how we need to get more natural light into our lives, more sunlight, and then look at actually how we can mitigate artificial light that we're under during the day and also at night. There's a lot of studies coming out, a lot of Australian studies actually, about the damaging effect of artificial blue light, not just on our eyes, but our brains, on our circadian rhythms, how we're sleeping, how we're recovering.
Yeah.
And I built it just to educate, and then I started to look for companies that I could align with that were building things to my specification and actually could solve that problem, and brought it all together just recently. So
fantastic.
Yeah. And my background's in natural health, natural therapies. I've had 2 autoimmune conditions in my lifetime that were very serious.
Yeah.
So I've had to dig deep and find solutions for myself. And I met Cyril a couple of years ago when I was in Melbourne and went there for a holiday and didn't realise why I couldn't sleep and I couldn't walk because my whole system had flared up with inflammation, and got down that journey of EMFs and light. And when you start to go down the rabbit hole, you start to think, okay, I've got to do some of these things myself.
Yeah.
And I used to wear prescription glasses, and one of the hacks or recommendations was that to actually repair the eyes, you need to look at the sunlight when it's rising in the morning. You need to get that natural light into your eyes, regenerate the cells of the eyes, and then protect your eyes at night from all the rubbish that's in the roof. The unnatural spectrum or unnatural sun. We created what they term an artificial sun, right? So I did that for 3 or 4 months, and my eyes came back to life, regenerated.
Wow.
I was able to read books again. Ironically, it was actually working in an office that did that. I used to work in an insurance broker's office.
Yeah.
And it's like the first exposure. I was 26 years old, never worked in an office before, got exposed to all the fluoros and the LEDs from screens, and I lost my eyesight within 6 months.
That's amazing.
So that was 10, 15 years down the track, learning about how to actually recover that sight. So
okay. Well, I want to talk about the glasses and those effects on light as well. But Cyril, you're here from Health Express World and EMF Safety. Is that right?
Yes, I've got 2 hats to wear.
Two hats to wear. All right. So this is it's going to be a complicated podcast.
Well, the two come together and make sense once you understand what we do.
Okay. So what do you do?
Okay. Well, the 2 things. I have an engineering background, and my background allowed me to work in the EMF and telecom power industry, and I was transitioning from the healthcare industry, where I was a pain management specialist. And when I was in the healthcare industry, I was seeing a lot of information from some clever technology that we used to use to scan people around the world. And that technology showed me about EMF.
Okay.
And we could actually tell in a cellular way what was really happening with people when electromagnetic frequencies, magnetics, phones, Wi-Fi, telephone, lights were all impacted impacting on the body. We could actually see distortions that were leading to certain health issues. In fact, a whole range of them, to the point that it became the main cause for so many issues that I actually thought I'm actually going to leave the health industry, stop trying to help people and recover when they get in this chronic state, and actually try and get ahead of the game and get to people's homes and actually stop them from becoming sick when they became aware that these things were going to be an issue.
So working on a prevention rather than a cure.
Absolutely. Yeah, much better emotionally for the practitioner. If you can deal with the issue and keep people healthy, it's much better than dealing with sick and ailing people that really they've left it too long sometimes.
Yeah.
So I ended up going back into engineering, back into households, looking at wiring. We represent a European manufacturer of EMF monitoring and test equipment, and we provide that to big industry here in Australia. And at the same time, I use that same technology to test people's homes and businesses. We test libraries and do testing for councils and the fire brigade and telecom. So we get into all these different places, and we can now implement changes to support people who are sensitive or not wanting to be poisoned 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So we end up engineering Faraday cages in people's homes and dealing with magnetic fields from junction boxes and smart meters, and basically showing people what they can't see but is actually impacting on them. So we get involved in both ends.
Yeah, well, I think this is going to be a really informative conversation. I'm looking forward to learning a lot, because it's there is so much out there that we don't realize. And I got into a conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about the idea that we as human beings, we have a certain limitation to what we can see because of our eyes and how it's all set up. But how a bird sees, how a chameleon sees, how a bee sees, how a fly sees, it's all very, very different, because they're looking at different spectrums. So they're actually seeing a lot of things that are very, very different to us, that for us is invisible. But we can be using different devices to know that these fields are there, that there are these things around. So I think this is I'm very, very excited to keep chatting with you guys. So look, I'm sure everyone's going to really, really enjoy this. But let's talk about let's maybe use this as a bit of an example. So we're sitting here in an office. We've got fluoro lights above us. There's computers around. There's the internet. There's Wi-Fi. We've got phones. My phone's turned off at the moment. But we as people are living these really, really connected lives. So we've got there's so much going around us. What are some of the hazards, some of the dangers that we need to be aware of?
Shall I deal with the lighting?
Let's start with the lighting. Yeah.
Fluorescent lighting, if you had a piece of equipment to measure it, and you compared that spectrum, like you say, to natural sunlight, which we're naturally designed to be under, it's terrible. It doesn't replicate any of that.
Yeah.
Fluorescent lighting has a problem. The two ends have a lot of EMF coming from them. Sort of radiation coming from them, so it's basically causing a lot of oxidative stress in the body. So when you're working, say in the office, and you're getting eye strain, headache, that's not your natural state. You go outside and recoup and ground yourself without shoes on, and you're in the sunlight.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen. Okay, so this is what it's causing. It's causing eye strain, headache. The lights are flickering hundreds of times a second because it's connected to the power grid, causing your brain to put metabolites and stress in your brain. So we're creating environments that are totally not fit for us. So that's why you're designing something better and looking to make it more human-centric is what I think we need to do.
So to take that in the way that I understand, I mean, from a video background myself, we see things in around 25 frames per second. So we're seeing 25 different shots a second, which creates smooth motion for us. If you've got something flickering, like you said, 100 times a second, we don't pick it up optically as a flicker. But our brain is still picking it up. Our body is still picking that up.
Yeah, I mean, look at a lot of research coming out of Australia on neurodegeneration, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. It's basically metabolites in the brain that haven't been able to be detoxed at night. And it's a perfect loop because all this technology is causing these metabolites, and then you go to bed at night to recover, and you're still exposed.
Yeah,
before you go to bed to these, and you're not giving yourself space to detoxify. one of the big things Cyril and I mention is your brain detoxifies at night. Your brain runs a system of detoxification, and that is reliant on melatonin, which is a sleep hormone.
Yeah.
But all the lights and artificial stuff we're exposed to inhibits that hormone. We're not just talking about artificial light, but we're talking about Wi-Fi, we're talking about electrical fields. Your body sees that as a light, and the hormonal system and nervous system reacts to that. And generally, what we say is, if you're exposed to artificial light at night, the actual hormonal system thinks it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So if you're in lighting environments at 10, 9, 10 o'clock, your body clock thinks it's 4 o'clock. And it's not, it won't release melatonin, and you won't. So if you're not releasing melatonin, your brain isn't detoxifying, and we're not recovering.
And then we rely on coffee and everything throughout the day to keep us going.
I don't think, that's exactly right. So optimizing these little environmental tweaks, I believe, adds a lot of value to your recovery and your length of the life. Yeah, we're just learning these things now.
Absolutely,
so it wasn't a common thing to understand even 5 or 10 years ago. So as I said, I just want to quickly add, Cyril came into my life when I needed to know about these EMFs because they were killing me.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep at night. I had insomnia. I was waking up every 2 hours. Putting these little hacks in, because I have an autoimmune condition, we struggle to repair, recover, and just adding these little things in have made a massive difference to my life. Huge difference.
Unreal. So, Chris, I think there's an interesting link there as well between what you're saying about getting outside and going out in your bare feet in the sunshine. There's a lot of people as well who are talking about that idea of how grounded you can be and how it's how restorative it is for us to be out, getting your hands dirty, having that connection with the earth. I think that's an interesting link as well. So it's not just having that connection with the earth. There's also that sun element too.
Yeah, and basically your mitochondria and your cells are tuned to receive information from the light, the sun, the earth. We evolved that way. We were made that way.
Yeah.
So that's a natural state to recharge the energy and the water in our cell and our body. You put us in the unnatural environments and you have totally different frequencies, totally different environments. And the cell's not getting that information or energy. So it makes sense why you feel fatigued in those environments, or you're not feeling well in those environments long term.
So that's going to have it's not just a mental health issue. It's a physical health issue. That being in artificial environments.
Well, there's a lot of studies coming out of Australia, and I think there's the Dean of Psychology in Monash Uni in Melbourne. They're calling for the need for circadian-based lighting, for lighting inside to match what's going on outdoors, because it does affect our mental health. It affects our the ability to make neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
Cyril will probably talk about that a little bit. Melatonin, the sun rises at a certain degree, and that's when you make melatonin through those frequencies of light in the morning.
Yeah.
We think it's just a sleep hormone and people just pop a pill, but it's part of the natural cycle of life and how we should be, designing our lives to fit this stuff in. We're running around and not being mindful of these important factors and how we put them back into our lifestyles. Sure.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, and not having it's being a natural thing. Yeah, we are very, very used to these days. It was when life gets too busy, so we pop a supplement and we do this. That natural energies and that natural rhythms, like it is such that's the reason it's natural is because it's the way it's meant to be.
For sure, 100%.
Yeah. So Cyril, when it comes down to how EMFs are working through, whether it be through our office or through our homes, can you explain a little bit about the what are those effects and how do they affect us and why do they affect us?
Well, they affect us in a virtually every way. Light itself from the sun is an EMF. So we're designed to pick up some EMFs and benefit from them, and others can distort how the body functions. So if we go back to what happens in the morning, okay, you're designed to wake up in your cave, let's say, okay, and you've got the sky and it's going to be blue, okay. Well, that's before chemtrails, okay, before the poisoning of the sky, okay, and that blue triggers a reaction, releases cortisol, and you basically, your caveman self wants to get up and go out and go hunting and be productive. It takes you away from the cave. It makes you want to go out and do things. Now, that's the morning. Okay, that's the morning, and as the sun goes up and across the sky, it changes its angle, and it becomes more and more yellow and amber and eventually orange-red in the evening. Now that diffuses the blue, changes the way the response is. So you're no longer wanting to run out and go hunting, and you're now wanting to go more into a parasympathetic in the evening, the resting cycle, the repair cycle. And that's where the melatonin is released from the brain, and the brain shrinks, the cranial cavity changes, the lymphatic system floods up, and you're then removing those toxins that Chris was talking about just then.
Yeah.
Now you can completely wreck that process by simply going to bed in a house with an electrical circuit behind your headboard. Every one of your listeners has probably got 2 general purpose outlets either side of their bed.
Yeah.
And their head is probably half a meter or less from a 240, 50 volt supply. And that electric field is pretending to be light.
Yeah.
Your body doesn't realize that you've turned the light out and you've gone to bed. It thinks you're flooded with light still, because that electric field is mimicking light to your body. Now what happens? It literally interferes with the release of melatonin. It messes with the hormonal cycles. It agitates the body. You won't go into a full proper sleep. You won't get REM sleep in the way you're supposed to.
Yeah.
If you look at the typical illness for the elderly now, it's brain toxicity. They're so toxic because every night of their life they've been sleeping in an electric field. Here's a really simple experiment for anybody listening. If they turn off their power when they go to bed, so find the circuit breaker. I don't mean just on the GPO on the wall, the general purpose outlet. I mean actually the circuit that
Flip the safety switch.
Flick the switch to turn off the lighting and the power in their bedroom, because that electric field travels about 3.5 meters. So anywhere you're about 3.5 meters or less from that circuit, your body thinks you're in that floodlight of electric field. So it won't go to the detox state that you need overnight. If you turn that power off overnight, you'll be amazed to feel, or how you feel in the morning.
Yeah.
Normally, some people who are super toxic, might take them 2 or 3 days. In fact, it's quite common. We might actually say to somebody, look, here's an experiment for you. Turn the power off overnight, see how you feel. And they'll ring you a day later and go, oh, I feel terrible. Why do I feel so sick? Why turning the power off did you feel sick? It's because your body's detoxing. Literally, finally, it's detoxing.
Yeah.
And there's so many natural therapists and doctors battling to try and get people to respond to therapy and treatment. And if they just turn the power off, they're suddenly yards ahead of where they should have been. They literally will improve things. And it's a cheap test. Just turn the power off, sleep in that, and then you'll realize what happens when you sleep in a Faraday cage, which is where we paint the walls. We literally measure the house and paint the walls, shut down the electric field, so all of that can't get in. So Wi-Fi, telephone network, the electric fields from the wall, and as a result, they sleep as if they're sort of 10,000 years ago. No man-made power, and suddenly the body starts to detox. That will have a massive impact. So you can test it out by just turning the power off. It's free. Try it. And your fridge will still survive perfectly fine overnight, and your food will be fine. But if you do that for 3 or 4 days, you'll suddenly realize you don't want to ever sleep in power again.
I think that's an interesting thing, because I hadn't thought about it too much like that. But if you go camping and so you're away from all that sort of stuff, and you sleep well, you wake up, you've got a lot more energy. So you go bushwalking, you go fishing, you go swimming, you go do all those sorts of things. That's stepping away from those electrical fields. You can only think that if that's the effect from just having even a circuit that's turned off, you've got a mobile phone. So many of us go to sleep with our mobile phone beside me. I have that. That's my alarm clock in the morning.
Look, the world we're in now is the mobile phone is just an evil addiction. It is crazy how we have put everything into that one device.
Yeah.
And it's a microwave transmitter. It's very powerful, very capable, and it was only given license if you absolutely promise you wouldn't put it next to your head or in your pocket or carry it on your body. Otherwise, you're not allowed to use them, because that's what's in the phone. It says only reason it's got the license to be used is if you won't put it next to your head, if you won't carry it on your body, and yet everybody does it.
Yeah.
Now, there's further problems, as we've seen in our current situation, where the phone is being used by government and tracking and many other things. So there's more and more reasons where if you want to put your phone away, you should put it away from the sleeping area. We supply Faraday bags. People can go to our websites and just get a Faraday bag. You drop your phone in, fold the top over. The phone not only goes quiet, it doesn't find the network. It can't be found by anybody. And it's no longer radiating EMF that's affecting your body. That's the number one way to manage those now. Just drop them in a Faraday bag. If you're not using it, just take it out of the circuit, so to speak.
Yeah. So for people, can you just explain quickly what a Faraday? Essentially, what a Faraday cage is for people who don't know.
Well, look, Faraday is about creating a box, so to speak, that doesn't allow electrical fields to travel in and out of it. So your mobile phone produces an electric field. Lots of people call it RF, radio frequency, but it's an electric field. And I'm getting messages here. What's this?
What's this? So will calls and messages still come through if it's in the bag?
Absolutely not.
It's all completely
Absolutely.
disconnected.
Turn it off. It's over. Look, what I recommend to people is just simply change your message. Too many people are absolutely a slave to the mobile phone. Change the message. Say, hi, this is me. I check my phone 6 times a day. Please leave a message. I look forward to answering when I'm available or whatever. And that way it starts taking the pressure off you. You manage your life and your phone. Don't let that try and dictate to you, because you just won't win it.
Just on and that sort of things, great for, even if, regardless of EMF levels, regardless of anything else, just on a mental health standpoint, having that control over yourself, rather than if you're in that point. I mean, my phone rings 500 million times a day, so by going through and having that, you're in the middle of doing something else, the phone rings. It changes once again, and you're switching.
Yeah, your productivity improves dramatically when you take control of your phone. Certainly. Okay, you turn it on once every hour, once every 2 hours. Spend 10 minutes dealing with the phone. Turn it off again, or put it in a Faraday bag, and then it's no longer being used as a tracking device against you. Yeah. Google and those people aren't using it as marketing to you. You probably notice you'll drive somewhere and suddenly it's advertising the shop you're standing under. Yeah. That's the way it's being used, and many other ways. Managing that type of device is important. The use of Wi-Fi, it is so straightforward to use Ethernet cables. You can even get situations where you can use your mobile phones on the Ethernet. You can get adapters and plug it in. Yeah. Your laptop, you can get an adapter to plug your Ethernet in. It's faster than Wi-Fi. Yeah. Now, something not many people realize is the insurance companies around the world got together and they said, we're not going to insure non-ionizing radiation, which means your mobile phone, your Wi-Fi, if somebody gets sick from that, we're not insuring it. And we're telling you up front, we're not going to insure it. It's called Exclusion 32. Yeah. So if you're a business and you provide mobile phones to those people, if you haven't properly provided education showing them and they acknowledge that they're not to put that phone next to their head, they're not to carry it in their pocket, they're not to sleep next to it, if they don't know that and they don't realize how little time they should use on it, because the standards actually say heavy usage is 30 minutes every 7 days.
Wow.
People, what's heavy usage? Is about 8 hours a day nowadays, right? My ex-business partner died of a brain tumor for using it about 4 hours a day, right? So, that's why the insurance companies do not insure it, right? So if you're an employee and you provide the phones, you really must be aware that if you don't provide education in the same way that you might provide a chainsaw operator with responsibilities and say you must know how it's safe, how not to use it, you've got to do the same with a mobile phone, because you will be just as liable with the mobile phones in the future. It's a litigation issue that's going to really hit businesses at some point in the future.
So what's the answer to that? It's essentially not carrying around in your pocket. I mean, you can keep it in the Faraday cage, but if you're in a heavy communication job, You know, is a headset's better? Is there something else that would be a better option?
Yeah, look, there's some measurements we made, okay? Now, the telecom manufacturers know, and in their standards, they put it in that you're not to hold the phone close to your body or next to your head, right? But hands-free across the desk, that was part of the approved usage. You can use a headset. You can use air tubes. They're very straightforward. We've got them on our website. They're a headset that instead of putting the microphone and speaker right in the ear, it provides maybe a 6-8 inch air tube, and that goes in your ear, and then you've got the cable, and as a result you don't get the magnetic field or the electric field that's hijacking the cable from the phone. So the phone, dramatically reduces the exposure you're exposed to. I mean, we measured it at about 12 microwatts per meter squared, which doesn't really mean anything when you're next to your head. But if you know the difference between that and when it's a meter away, it was 0.008.
Yeah,
right? 0.008 against 12.
So it's exponentially different.
Absolutely. Just push it across the table. But when you go to bed at night, just do your best to shut it down.
So the other way to get away from cables is Bluetooth. Does Bluetooth have the same issues?
Bluetooth is a non-ionizing radiation, and the insurance companies won't insure it because their studies show it will affect your health.
So it's another one, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cyril, you might want to mention the Alexander McDonald case, the CSIRO.
Yeah, that was one of the senior science officers for the CSIRO, Alexander McDonald, as Chris mentioned. He was suffering electrohypersensitivity. He was struggling in his work, and they took the support staff away from him, and he wasn't able to continue with his work because he literally couldn't manage operating equipment and computers in the electrical field. And it was proven by Dr. Russell Cooper, who's a leading doctor in EMF testing and seeing what happens to people. He did calcium channel gate toxicity testing, and he showed the effects of EMF and non-ionizing EMF in the normal environment that could be in an office, and in some people it was poisoning them to the point that he could prove it in court. And as a result, he's now helping with people all over the country to show employers what's really happening. So and they won the case because the environment was literally causing a measurable issue to the body.
You're covered. There's an insurance policy that the federal government uses called ComCare, and it has provision for this. So if you're a federal government employee, you're covered.
Yeah.
But we aren't.
But as private enterprise employees, we're not.
No.
So that's effectively scared the crap out of me. So what are some of it's not about those more. What are the answers? What are the things that we can do? Plan what you're doing. Like we were talking earlier before we came on mic about your client base, and your client base are looking at building their own homes, building sheds, building workshops, tiny homes, all of these things. And it's great to be clever with cupboards and stairways and space and all the rest of it. People worry about the lighting and the windows and all this. But if they don't understand where the electrical fields are, where the magnetic fields are, where dirty power is generated, they'll build themselves these tiny little boxes designed to poison them. Yeah. It's terrible. So we end up having to help people prior to design, prior to construction. We help them in the design process to make sure that their homes, whether it's a tiny home or a big business. I've even done houses in America. I've done eco homes. The people send us the drawings. We examine the drawings. We put the right lighting in. We put the right amount of paint, shielding, magnetic shielding, move things around so that they're not putting themselves in harm's way. I mean, a common one is people tend to put their air conditioners, their solar, their meter boxes on their bedroom wall. Yeah. It's just incompetence when it comes to builders and electricians doing that. They mustn't do that, because if you're lying in bed in an enhanced electric and magnetic field, it's going to make you sick. There's no reason to do it. And yet so many houses we go to, they've done exactly that. So I want to ask, you said dirty power. I haven't heard of dirty power before. What's dirty power?
Dirty power is where you have a superimposed microsurge upon the sinusoidal waveform of 50 hertz supply, which is what's in the wall. So what happens is you're expecting to buy a nice sort of up and down 50 hertz supply.
Yep.
And what happens is there are devices such as smart meters, solar panel inverters, TVs, phone chargers, power supplies for computers. They all chop up the electricity and then they reintroduce it into the circuit in a way that is very aggressive. And it basically messes with your hormonal cycles. It messes with things like brittle diabetes and messes with the way the body functions, causes nervous system issues. It really breaks down the body in so many different ways, and it's an engineering issue, and there are engineering solutions, and we're currently working on whole house filters so we can deal with the problem at the front door, so to speak. And at the same time we mop up issues in the house with Stetzer filters, and they actually do what they're supposed to do. We put an oscilloscope on it and we can see what's happening, and we're confident of it. There's a lot of, should we say, placebo devices out there which make claims related to shielding of EMF and power, and unfortunately very, very high number of them do not do what they're supposed to do. And this is one of the things we get involved with, actually helping people understand what is and isn't working.
Okay. I think that's really, really interesting. So what I've also picked up from that is, we can still have those creature comforts. We can still have the lighting. We can still have the air conditioning, the mobile phones, the computers. We can still have all this stuff. It's just got to be done in a correct manner that's not going to cause us issues.
Plan it, manage your time with it.
Do it properly.
Can I just add into that? You mentioned Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Wi-Fi is obviously fairly ubiquitous amongst offices and even council-owned hotspots and things.
Yeah.
Research that I found from Australia, again, it's Australian research. You find all this great research and work being done here, is that Wi-Fi affects how your body uptakes vitamin D.
Yeah, wow.
So the receptor on the cell that's supposed to take up the vitamin D starts to get affected, and you can't effectively get that into your body.
So it's too busy doing its thing because it's picking up on those frequencies
the
around.
electromagnetic frequencies making it actually vibrate in a different way.
It effectively works as a blocker.
Yeah, right. So look at what we've been through. We're locked inside. Can't get outside. Wi-Fi all the time. Phones all the time.
Yeah.
You need vitamin D to control viral replication in your cells and basically control bacteria and virus and what the cell's doing. So don't want to go too much down that rabbit hole, but it's so low-hanging fruit. We see it every day, and we're involved with trying to educate, and it's sort of like so ubiquitous because we've been programmed into taking these products without understanding the liability or the risk or best practice of using them.
I think we become we get rather complacent as consumers. We start saying, well, if it was an issue, they wouldn't let us have it. That very, very big old they who we quite often like to take things for granted. And say, well, it'll be sweet. But I mean, you think about, when it comes to Wi-Fi, you go out anywhere, you can check a Wi-Fi signal. You pull out your phone, you might do it over there now, but you pull out your phone and you search for Wi-Fi signal on your phone, you'll pick up 4 or 5 places, regardless of where you are. It is everywhere.
That's right. So the body is amazing. It's amazing at dealing with toxins, but only when it's given a period of time where it can detox. Okay. If you poison the body 24 hours a day, it doesn't recover. It can't win that battle. Okay. So this is why we encourage people to recognize that if they want to be outside all day, which we all do, we want to be out there in that environment, and we don't want to have to wear Faraday cages and cover ourselves in tinfoil and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. We just want to be able to cope long term. Well, the only way to do that is to actually shut down the power at night, or put it in a Faraday cage, or sleep in a space where you're not being drowned in EMF. If you do that, then the body then gets to recover overnight, which means you're perfectly capable of functioning during the day for most people. Yeah.
So I think that's a really, really cool cool way to look at it. That idea of being able to detox is it true that you can get to the point? You hear of people who are become addicted to their phones, having that sort of that mental and physical control over them. I know that I've personally been through those times when I found it very, very difficult to be separated from my phone, because it's that real fear of missing out. And when my income is related to being connected directly. So I've had it in the past where when I wasn't able to be contacted, it freaked me out. Is there a physical level of that essentially being so in that sort of levels of toxicity where you almost dependent on it?
So I think that's the dopamine cycle.
Well, there is.
So can I say?
Yeah,
I think they, by design, like Cyril says, by design, you become dopamine dependent on this need for connection.
Yeah.
But then the blue light and the rubbish and the EMF coming from it degrades your dopamine cycles. So it's this vicious cycle.
It's a cycle,
you get a hit, it takes it away from you. Get a hit, it reduces. And that, I would say that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Brad.
Yeah, the phone notification system and design of very particular websites and apps such as Facebook is a classic mind control game. It's designed to make you feel like you can never win. You have to, that everything's moving all the time. You have to scroll and scroll. You can't find what you were reading 5 minutes earlier. It's designed to keep you on this conveyor of wasting your time, taking energy from you,
keeping you in that place.
Yeah, keeping you in that place. There's
so many studies absolutely proving that, and they've come out and said, yeah, we do. Yeah.
Yeah, on that Netflix doco, wasn't it?
Yeah,
came out.
That was one of the ones where a lot of people picked up on it, like, really? It doesn't stop.
Yeah, exactly.
So when that comes down to the lights, you've got a couple of lights here on display. You've got the lights, so you've also got the glasses. How does that? What have we got here that works? And can you describe them a little bit more for people who are just listening, not just on the YouTube?
Yeah, for sure. Cyril's demo person. The blue blocking glasses were my entry level because, as I said, I had prescription glasses and came across the work of a neurologist who was talking about lighting and light being a massive factor in you losing your sight, because it creates, basically the way lighting has been designed, it creates a massive blue light overproduction, and blue light on its own is very toxic to the body. It's so energy dense that it can cause a lot of oxidative stress in your eyes. That's why you're losing your sight. That's how I lost my sight in the office environment. What we're trying to do here is use sort of filtering glasses during the day to knock that big spike down so it's less affecting the eye. And then at night we're using a different orange and amber tint or pigment in the actual glasses to block 100% of any overhead or screen light at all, because your eye is always looking for a signal to actually trigger the chemistry that you need and the hormones you need to set off those sleep hormones. If your eye isn't getting the signal, you're going to be making, like I said, blue light at night. Your body will think it's 4 o'clock. It'll create chemistry in your brain and your hormonal system to match the lighting environment you're in.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to calm down. So just by the fact it's very subtle, wearing a pair of blockers at night helps you fall asleep. I've had clients who are like 85 on melatonin, can't get off melatonin, and we've just given them blockers at night, and within 2 weeks they're sleeping. They just fall asleep.
Yeah.
During a movie or something. You're basically making sure the brain is saying, hey, you're in a light deprivation situation and you need to turn on that sleep hormone. So you're sort of not tricking it, but and in terms of the other lighting, a lot of the exposure is overhead lighting.
Yeah.
It's blue lighting. I used to work in lighting. I used to sell the first generation of LED downlights to electrical wholesalers. I didn't know what the hell I was doing or what I was selling.
Yeah.
Just a product to me at the time. But coming to understand this, we've engineered, and we'll probably do a little demo video later, but we need to actually get a better spectrum of light during the day to match what's outside, and at night we need to pull out all of that blue light and create a nice amber firelit ambience, like you're in front of a fire. And as Cyril mentioned at the start, red light, amber light, it helps the body actually get into that melatonin phase. So you're sort of using these little hacks and prompts via light to change your chemistry.
Great. So, well, in terms of the difference between, say, your LED downlights and like the bulbs you've got here.
Yeah. So
what is the actual difference?
So these are still LED. So obviously, when new homes they're mandating LED usage.
Yeah.
Old incandescent lighting is being phased out. You can't even find it. I don't know if Bunnings still sell it.
You can probably try if you look hard enough. But
essentially, so essentially it's LED. It ticks all those specifications for Australian standards. But what we've done is change the spectral output, and we've put a driver in it that actually has reduced the flicker effect. So remember that flicker effect I told you? So it uses the DC part of the current through the driver to basically lower that flicker effect, and also reduce dirty power that Cyril mentioned. It doesn't add any more dirty power. We try to engineer it to stop that from happening. So there's a few bits and pieces going on. All the while it's wrapped in what the compliance or the authorities require for overhead and home lighting and office lighting.
Wow, that's really, really cool. So being able to fix a lot of those issues.
And they're looking at this, they're direct replacements. So this is one that you just put straight in a ceiling. So it's a circular light. If there's a down light, you can just plug it straight in. Yeah. And there's Edison and bayonet lights, and these are really clever. These are a bio light where it has 3 different color lights. It can be daylight, it can be like a yellow and a darker amber, and you don't have to have an app or anything. All you do is toggle the switch on the wall, and it'll suddenly change the setting. And they're very, very low wattage lights. What is this? 4
or 5, and the downlight's 10.
That's 5 5 watts, and that's 10 on a consumption. But we've got this in the lounge, and we've got this one in our bedroom. So I'm familiar with both of those. They work great. And the function I really like with these is you might finish the night on, let's say, a dark amber. It's been in your lounge and you've been watching TV and you didn't need a bright white. You might turn it off. Then maybe 2-3 hours later, in the middle of the night, you might get up and walk through the kitchen. If you turn the light on, it won't go back to the bright white light. It'll go back to the last setting you left it on. So it'll be on a dark amber. So you can walk through to the kitchen, then go to bed, and you haven't had that rush of adrenaline that you get out of a white light, which wrecks you for the rest of the night. You literally just go straight back to bed. It's great. Yeah. So this type of technology is excellent, and I do definitely recommend it.
And I just want to add in terms of you're talking about the white light and the actual cool white.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to bring up.
So generally in the LED world, you've got cool white and you've got warm white. You've got lighting manufacturers that give you a little switch on there. So it's cool. Just switch on to your warm white. It's fine. Yes, visually it's less impacting, but studies have shown that's basically green light. It's green light put through a filter. Yeah, and that still affects melatonin. So blue and green across that spectrum will degrade your melatonin. So it looks nicer. Yeah. Not as clinical, but it's still doing the same thing.
Still got the same issues.
It's really nice. But so these are totally reverse engineering that all out.
So in terms of just straight out visibility, if you got these through your house at night and things like that, how does it affect? What's the difference between the amber and between? Sorry, I've lost the other colours already. But how does that affect your visibility? Is there any issues there? Be able to see, you're not going to trip over your coffee table or anything like that?
Well, in terms of that, there's a mix mode in there, which is replicating what the old incandescent looks like. Yep. It all depends on your eyes. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you're full on biohacker, like me, I've got them on amber and I've already had my dinner at 4 o'clock, but something that's more like reasonable, you could use, the mix mode and get away with it. It's a bit like just Cyril might want to just pick those glasses up. There's one that's very red and one's that's amber. So the very red one, it's very difficult to actually function and do a lot of things in it. You're just putting them on 2 hours before you go to bed, watch a movie, go to sleep. The amber one will let you function, cook your dinner. So it's been practical in terms of...
Yeah, the red one, I wouldn't want to try and read a book.
No.
Okay.
The amber one, you can.
Yeah.
Okay. The red one... No, it just gets a little bit hard, but that's late evening, I would imagine. Yeah. And the other one is more sort of daytime, and your brain adjusts on that one. After a while, you wouldn't even notice you had a slight tint.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and those sorts of things are available. You've got all that on your website and whatnot as well.
Yeah, through BioLite. So
through BioLite.
We'll put the links.
So we'll make sure we've got the links and everything there, and that's going to have all the information to go through and explain it more for people as well. So there's going to be links through all the social channels and through all that sort of stuff to check all those sorts of things out. We are getting to the point where we're starting to run out a bit of time, guys, and so look, it's just kind of been pretty mind blowing. And but all I could think of, Cyril, when you put those glasses on, was the whole Elton John. So straight up.
Excellent.
So we just need to get some star-shaped ones.
Yeah.
And
I'll put that request in for you.
Put it through and get it to go, guys. Look, we're going to do a little video demonstration for those people who want to be able to check out on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel as well. So we're going to go through and demonstrate some of these things, which I'll be really, really keen to check out. But for all our guests, we go through and do our 6 in 60, which we have, which is 6 questions in 60 seconds. We're going to try and rip that through for both of you. So if I'd love both of you to answer all the questions as we go through.
Yep.
All right, you ready to go?
Are we going to do simultaneously?
We'll do one question and then Chris, you talk. Then Cyril, you answer.
Yep, got it.
We'll do that.
Okay.
All right. Cool. So, what's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
I think just driving consistency and working off the back of pain. Sometimes pain's a big motivator. I've been through chronic illness.
Yeah.
And wanting to help others not go through that. Basically, give them the solutions that you never had.
Yeah.
That's a big driver for me to really, fast track people into better health.
Awesome.
Yeah, look, I've constantly tried to look outside the box, and as a result, I've continuously changed my role. I've never gone, okay, this is the job I do, even though I've achieved, very high levels in each thing I've done. I've always looked at it and gone, okay, well, I've done that now. I could just sit here, but no, I actually want to change direction entirely. So I went from the engineering to the medical world, back to engineering and then specialty. So I guess not staying stagnant in one singular role, keep expanding what you do.
Yeah, driving adaptability. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Cyril?
I know exactly when that was and where I was.
Yeah.
I was on the deck of an oil rig and everything was very, very busy. And a senior manager came to me and I was responsible for everything on the deck. And he said, come with me. And I thought, oh my God, I'm in so much trouble. And he took me right across the deck and he stood me right on the edge of the boat. And he said, you see that? And I'm going, oh my God, I don't know. And he said, that's sunset. And if you don't stop work and watch the sunset, right, you only get so many, right? Treasure them.
Unreal. Love that one.
Actually, thank you. That's actually triggered me as well because it's something similar through the information I was getting about light initially. And the mentor was saying, you only get a certain number of sunsets and you need to look, how many have you missed out on?
Yeah.
Right. In terms of that, the biology and stuff we were talking about. And the advice was be like the Sphinx.
Yeah.
The Sphinx is grounded with all four extremities on the ground as it watches the sunrise. And that's how you set up your day.
Awesome. All right. What's the one thing you're most fired up about today?
Just being with you guys.
Yeah.
It's been fun. I mean, just to see your setup and your organisation and how you're doing things and your drive towards getting this information to the public.
Awesome.
It's very uncommon for a real estate agent to be podcasting with us.
A little bit different. Hey?
Yeah, look, I love puzzles, okay? When people send me a drawing of their home or they ring up and they say, look, I'm thinking about doing this, being able to examine what they're trying to achieve and find the issues and go, okay, let's resolve this. Let's stop this from ruining your project. And actually, that's what I love doing that with projects because by the end of it, they don't have EM issues. They don't have shielding issues. They sleep. They feel good. And that's the payoff for me to get that result for people.
That's awesome. If you could recommend one book or podcast to our audience, what would it be and why?
I'll be biased. I'll say Health and Light by Dr. John Ott.
Yep.
He was Walt Disney's cinematographer who basically worked out why lighting was affecting animals and plants and actually got to change the lighting in schools and help behaviourally challenged kids actually calm down. This was in the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's really the type of seminal work that is released and it gets buried, and you've got to actually find it again. And we're coming to it again and basically getting his message back out there. Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's Health and Light, Dr. John Ott.
All right. We'll have a link to that one as well.
Yeah.
Mine will be Julian Palmer. Julian Palmer is well known for his work with native medicines and plant medicines and bringing the experience of multi-universes to people. His podcasts are fascinating. He meets and speaks to some really interesting people. So Julian Palmer, and let me see, he's on, I forget what they call it now. If you just look for Julian Palmer, plant medicines, etc., you'll find lots of information on him.
All right. Wonderful. So what sort of personal goals are you hoping to achieve over the next 12 months?
I want to be able to spread the message of these products around the world. So making some key connections with really prominent health practitioners and helping them understand that, this is as important. EMF, lighting. We know a very prominent Lyme disease doctor in Germany, and he does not work with anyone until they rectify the EMF situation.
Wow.
He has to do it first and foremost at the top of the apex of the treatment program. There's nothing else works.
Yeah.
And that's our message. And then we need to get that message out and have that more understanding about that.
Get the environment fixed before you can get the person fixed.
Exactly.
Look, I'd love to see a change in building standards that actually pay attention to health.
Yeah.
In every area of building homes, there's so many things that we do out of habit in the construction industry which are basically wrong when it comes to health. And it's only dogma that continues it. Looking at home building and design from a health point of view, particularly the electrical fields have been sorely ignored, and yet the solutions are available now and they're simple. So, I really would love to see changes in building standards. That's what I would like to see this year.
Awesome. All right, last question, a mystery question. What are your thoughts on garden gnomes?
I don't know. Can you chop the head off? Is there something you hide inside? Keys or... Cyril, you go first.
I actually have a collection of garden gnomes, and my children gave them to me over the years, and I have redistributed them across the countryside. If you've ever had a gnome appear in your garden, it might be me.
It might be yours.
Right?
That's
and
awesome.
I literally placed them in people's gardens, and years later you drive by and there's 3 or 4 more now in that garden. People get a gnome, arrive, and then they go, oh, where did that come from? So they actually get more and join them.
That's awesome.
Yes, it happens. It happens.
The garden gnome Banksy right here.
You look really suspicious and quite... Eyes are going to move back and forth.
You watch too many horror movies.
Yeah.
So, I've seen ones that are actually, I see all sorts of things, as you can imagine, but I've actually seen them in a couple of places where you walk around a corner, then all of a sudden there's these 2 garden gnomes and they're flashing. I thought that was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. It was great. So, look, Chris and Cyril, thank you guys so much for coming on today. Really, really appreciate your time. It was, in-depth conversation. I think I'm going to have to listen to it a couple of times to really be able to take it all in, but that's the joy of recording. So, guys, thank you so much. Is there anything you wanted to bring up quickly before we sign off and say good day?
Well, look, we tend to say don't buy it, don't move into it, don't build it unless you've thought about your EMF exposures and your lighting exposures. Plan ahead.
Yep. Great advice for everyone out there.
I'd double down on that. Just that we want to influence the trades to get their head around this, and tiny homes builders, manufacturers will get in there and make it more prominent and understandable.
Yep. Do it and do it right.
Yep.
Guys, thank you again. Really appreciate it. To everybody out there listening, I'm sure you enjoyed that and got a lot out of it. Make sure you thank these guys and check out their stuff. Jump on social media, jump on their websites, have a look at their products, go and see for yourself, do some research, check out those books and the podcasts. Look, it's all, a lot of really, really cool information. And I know I'm going to got a bit of a rabbit hole to jump down later on. Thanks guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. To everyone else, we'll talk to you next time. Cheers.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. Look, I'm going to have to go back and listen to that one again. I really, honestly, it blew my mind, a lot of the things we were talking about, or at least Chris and Cyril were talking about. I couldn't keep up too much, to be honest. So it was a great chat and quite illuminating, really. Anyway, I'm sure you enjoyed it. Make sure you give us a like and a share. Tell your friends about us. Say good day to Cyril and Chris if you're wanting more information on what they're doing. It's very, very interesting topic. Anyway, we look forward to catching up with you next week. Thank you. Bye.